Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today to our first session in the Brown Bag Summer Series for the Department of Psychiatry. We're really excited to have this series. I think this is our 13th year, maybe 12th year, 12th or 13th. So we're really excited to continue to provide knowledge and education and collaboration within different venues. Today, we have what I call a unique and dynamic panel discussion. And as you see the title, why include artistic expressions, how music and art connect to culture. So our series theme this summer is creating and building inclusive and psychologically safe spaces. So of course, you can't have a psychologically safe space without including artistic expressions. And that takes shape in the form of music, art, dance, you can put whatever you can put under that umbrella of arts. So we're excited today to have our presenters. I will just make a brief introduction of who they are, and then we'll let them talk a little bit more about themselves. But I'll start at my far right, Mr. Herb Smith, who many of you may be familiar with from the RPO, or even more familiar with from the Herb Smith Trio. And so he is a celebrity of sorts. So we have Herb Smith. Please welcome him. And then next to Herb, we have Mr. Imhotep Ptah. And many of you know Amen from his time here in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Rochester. Well, he has gone on to do some great big things, and I don't want to give it away, but I will say that he'll be presenting at a national conference later this month. And so it'll be exciting for you all to learn more about his work. So please welcome Amen. And then we have here Mr. Shawn Dunwoody, who many of you may know from the city of Rochester, his work throughout New York. And even though he's looking at his phone and not looking up.
I'm trying to organize my slides.
That's an inside joke.
I really am.
And so Shawn has done many of the murals and things that you've seen around Rochester. He's actually been working with the University of Rochester on several fronts. He is the art gallery director in neurology and for the Unity Gallery. And he also has a mural in the Department of, is it Alzheimer's? Yeah. Alzheimer's here in the MRBX, and I know recently in discussions with David Linehan about creating some art pieces more broadly. So please give him a warm welcome as well. So the format for today, they will each come up with a slideshow, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers. We will ask that you wait until there's a microphone in front of you before you ask the question. That way our audience on Zoom will be able to participate. Another piece of housekeeping information, we have an attendance list that'll be going around, and Amanda's going to start that off. That will help us with anyone who perhaps hasn't registered online. But it'll be coming around shortly, and feel free to sign, and there are some blank spaces if you have not registered. We do have refreshments up front. And if you registered, you're in the count. And if not, we have a couple of extras. So we hope that we have enough for this audience. And on that note, I am going to hand things over to Mr. Herb Smith. Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Pretty good. Let's see if we can just do this. Do that. Yeah, great. So I'm going to talk to you just a little bit today about music. That's my thing. I play in the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm also a conductor, conduct different orchestras around the country. And thank you for having me here. It just really took me down a stretch of thought and to really kind of hone in what I do and why I do what I do. So the first thing I want to say is just music elicits different responses from different people. there's a certain kind of thing that elicits. This elicits something different. So different music can actually, oh, different music can actually draw people in or push people away. And I think that is kind of the things that we need to think about when we're thinking about having a safe, psychologically safe space. Diversity in music mirrors the diversity in people. The same way we benefit from the exposure and inclusion of diversity in ethnicity and genders, so also we benefit from exposure and inclusion of diversity in music. When I was going to Eastman in 1987, did I leave my phone in there? Could you grab my phone for me? Thank you. When I was going to Eastman in 1987, there were like 5 other students that were Black. And there were 2 Black teachers at Eastman, and I didn't have either of them for a class. In 1986, Cameo came out with this song. My students over there, they're like, what song is that? I have no idea what song that is. That's Cameo, Candy. It was my favorite song. But I did not feel comfortable playing that song out. This music was not welcomed at Eastman or considered legitimate. I felt I had to keep that music to myself. That was my separate thing. Even in my own dorm room, I felt almost uncomfortable to play it just because of the people around me or my roommates. It was just an interesting thing because I would walk from my dorm room and go to Genesee Street in Rochester and get a haircut, go to a Black barbershop. And when I would walk in that place, I just loved it. It was such a joy for me to be around other Black people. It's an interesting thing because I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't have the vocabulary to express really what I was feeling. Walking through the halls of Eastman was nothing foreign to me. I had been in institutions. I had been the only Black musician in an orchestra before. But the institution wasn't home. It wasn't feeling comfortable. And being away from my actual home in Cincinnati, Ohio, which for me was complete acceptance. Now I'm here in Rochester feeling unsafe in school. It wasn't until years later that I start realizing, okay, what's going on here? And part of the reason why I felt so good going into that barbershop was because the music. And not just the music, but the acceptance of that music. And the people there accepting that that's a part of me as legitimate, as real. We all live to a soundtrack, if you know it or not. We live to a soundtrack. There were, like, if I said to someone, what song did they play at your prom? You probably know, right? Or what song did they play at your wedding or graduation? Or, there's so many things about music. And even like our phones, like your ringer, your notification, boom, bing, oh, yo, what's up, man? Or even like my dishwasher, when it goes off, there's this little, like, oh, time to get the dishes. It's like And these little things in our life, believe it or not, they're making impressions on us. And walking into an institution or a place or a church or something, and there's a certain music there, that music can elicit a feeling of warmth, or maybe a feeling of, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to be here. So I feel like an institution that is diverse in their music that they play, the music that's in the hallways, the music that's cherished, um, that actually will include more. Let's see if we can play this. It gives my heart such joy to be here, to be a part of this wonderful movement, and to see Rochester standing up for truth and for equality. My name is Herb Smith. I'm the conductor of the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. Thank you. And I am happy to say the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra supports Black Lives Matter. All Black Lives Matter. We are here doing what we do to support, and this will not be the last time we're here. Okay, don't play. It's not playing, so that's good. Don't play. All right. So that piece was Fanfare for the Common Man, is the name of that piece. And so in this case, it's using music specifically to create this inclusion of diversity, specifically picking pieces that will grab and bring things together. That piece was written by Aaron Copland, and that piece also was something that was written for the regular people, for your general people. It wasn't written for the autocrats, the aristocrats. It was written for everyone, fanfare for the common man. And so that's another way that you just use music. There's so many examples. I know my time is getting short here, but this is another example here of how Verdi used music to bring people together. When you listen to it, you don't think that it's revolutionary or that it is, but when you actually hear the words that he's talking about bringing Italy together. He's talking about bringing people together. He's talking about none of these different hierarchical concepts that we have. Is this going to play? You've probably heard this before. When you hear it, you think, oh, this was actually revolutionary? Yes, it was. Is there more volume? That's enough of that. Anyway, so just in closing, I just want to say, you know, we all live by a soundtrack, and coming into a place, listening to the music that's just inherent in the building, the feeling that is there, the attitude of the organization or the institution or a person of having this inclusion of everything around that person. Each person, we have different music that really draw to us, you know, from our upbringing, and through our adult life. And so having that inclusion really does include everyone, which to me is essential for creating a psychologically safe place. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, how's everybody doing this afternoon? I see it, literally people brought food and ain't bring me a damn thing. That's all right. I'm okay with that, Chanel. I can ride with that. Give me some cookies. Okay, so we wanted to, when I was asked to talk about this spaces and safe places, I wanted to bring some of the things I've actually worked on. So I have 100 slides that I have to get through in 10 minutes. So y'all better roll with me. You ready? Okay, this is a ride. I hope this button works, brother. All right.
1, 2, 3.
That's not my slide. Okay, here we go. Here I am. All right, here we go. Bam. Now, a lot of times I tried to create spaces for people, bringing joy about Rochester and having people feel good about what's happening. I'm gonna take this off here. What's happening around them and in the city. So a lot of these are pieces that were created to make things happen and make people feel good and feel connected. You know, here's all this stuff. Douglas, we bring these things. Oh, I'm falling for you by the falls. Oh, that's cute, isn't it? These things just to bring people together. Rochester, I love you to pieces. How do we actually build things and make things that bring people together? Then 2020 hit. There was a point in time where, you know, we were feeling a certain way. You know, we just weren't feeling right. I was getting calls from media and press, and they're saying, what would you say about this moment, Mr. Dunwoody? What would you say? And I said, I'm not going to say anything unless I can do something. And so what I wanted to do when I did it, that sounds interesting, was I was scrolling through Twitter, and I saw a friend of mine post the words enough. And I wanted to paint that on these same walls where I painted these happy things about Rochester. And what I did was I said, this is enough. If you've had enough of oppression, if you've had enough about police brutality, if you've had enough about anything, if you understand there's enough food to feed people in the world, you have a safe place to say it. I left out a bucket of chalk. A few hours later, it was covered. People leaving messages, what they felt they had enough of, about Black Lives Matter, about the lives of everyone else around them. And this actually gave people a place of an inclusion and being connected. And people would tell me, I'm glad you created this space because we're so disconnected. We can't communicate with one another. Which then led me to a call from the city. And they said, hey, when everybody was doing it. Can you paint Black Lives Matter outside? I was like, yeah, I can do that. Ooh, I got a quick story. I hope I can fit this in. All right, here we go. I said, yeah, I can do that. Originally, when they called me, I was gonna paint it on Main Street, right? It was gonna go on Main Street. And so it was gonna go right over the river, right over the Genesee River, right? So I'm calling in orders to get paint. I'm working with Sherwin-Williams. I need 100 gallons of paint. I was like, all right, everybody's the color you're supposed to do it in is yellow. So I call Sherwin-Williams and I'm like, hey man, I need 100 gallons of yellow paint. They're like, we can't do that. There's a paint shortage and there's not enough yellow base in New York State. I'm like, what? Well, I said, well, give me green. That's the same base that you would need is yellow. I was like, oh man. They said, we got blue. Now we know what was going on. Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter. So I said, oh man, I gotta find some off-color blue. So I get the color blue, right? And I'm like, I got it. Because you know what? This color blue works because it's gonna be right over the Genesee River. And the Genesee River flows what way? Students, do you know? Who knows the direction of the Genesee? No, yeah, north to south, right? It flies, which other river on the continent of Africa flows the same direction? The Nile. And who invented the color blue? The people of ancient Kemet. I said, I got this. Can't nobody say nothing. Nope, they moved it to Court Street on me. Which I was like, dang. And so I got all kinds of political backlash, like, is this an undercurrent of political movement you're doing? Are you trying to support the police? What are you doing? But luckily it worked out well because it worked out right below where popular right-wing radio shows happened. And they were actually talking about it. And they actually tweeted it out and put it on their Facebook pages to their audience, who I know weren't giving a damn about Black Lives Mattering. So it worked. Which brings us to, with that deal of painting Black Lives Matter, I said, we have that amphitheater. I'm glad Herb brought this in. Shawn Dunwoody brought the concert in. I said, we have this amphitheater where people gather. It's a movement. And when you have a movement of people, it's about the arts. It's about the poetry. It's about the music. It's about the dance. It's about the visuals that you see. I said, if we use this amphitheater, we have to amplify those voices that are gathering there, because once they gather, the energy's still there, but we don't know how to interpret it. So I said, I'm gonna take this concrete monster and I'm gonna paint it all black. And so I put out a call. I said, folks, if you wanna come and help me, please come out and help me paint it. That's up from an aerial view. Please help me paint this piece black. The first day, majority of black women came and brought the grandkids and everybody else to come paint. Second day, I started on painting the ground. Whose idea was it to start paint a ground black when it's 90 degrees out? Who the hell thought of that? So once we get everything covered, I put out a bucket of chalk. I put it on Facebook. I said, this is the space for you. Be inclusive, be connected. A few hours later, we get covered up with things that people are saying. And I'm gonna zip through these. You can always go and look at them another time, of what people are going on, what they're talking about, what's happening. Take a look at my slides. Give me a second. All right. All these things were actually happening. And what magically happened on every wall, and when I did the enough wall, is that every time it rained, these messages were gone. And the chalk was gone. But I never came back to replace the chalk at all, but there was always chalk in the location to be seen. As you can see, it became a space for people to gather, to exercise, to come together. And I'm zipping through these so you can see these. I just want to get to one that I found very interesting, where this became a space. I put a piano out there, okay? I was like, music needs to come with this. I put a piano out there. And not 2 minutes after I put it out there, I'm walking away, a young person comes up and starts playing the piano. I thought, this is amazing. And people would still play it. And it became what my friend called the people's space, where people could gather and exchange ideas. People started posting about getting books that you can learn and read about. There was actually a summer reading list that was put on the walls by a teacher, okay? Summer reading list was there. It went on the social web. The library said, hey, we're gonna buy those books and we're gonna put them outside in a free library that I built in the same location, and people could come and get those books. That was a great way to make inclusiveness, to make people think about, how do we think about each other? How do we move together to make things happen? Now, I'm gonna get to this. All right, I wanted to bring us together by an idea. I said, I know what I can do. We've got that Flower City, and we can merge together the Black Lives Matter fist, and this can make our fight, our connection, unified and strictly understood. It's a Rochester movement. So it's so interesting when I see these around on people's shirts, or when I'm at Wegmans and I see like 4 or 5 cars lined up, I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. It's just amazing to see how that could happen. So I started to use the space as other things. I created shields for people and would leave them out so that they could actually protect themselves when police were coming after them. This became a place of schools. The schools would come to the space because it was an open air space where they could actually learn together, and they would also go around reading some of the words that were written along the wall and being connected to make sure that this space and this place was gathered for all of them. Then you got people started having concerts. They started getting together, making it happen. Talking about, hold on, I'm going there. Graduations happen in the space. DJs, once again, people having a good time, inclusion, hula hooping. Look at that. Who would have thought this would have did that? Who would have thought paint a place black and letting people express themselves would change any of that? Which then leads us up into, oh, I just thought that was interesting. Someone got the tattoo of it. I was like, oh, wow, okay, that's kind of deep. Which leads us into right here in this university. How much time I got? I'm gonna still keep going. Unity Gallery, Joint Corridor, U of R Medicine. This is where we got together to talk about how can we create an inclusive environment? How do we bring people together? We brought in Dr. Paul of Bold and Gritty Coffee to get him and show his work. And here's some shots from there. We had a good ribbon cutting. People are there having a good time. There's my co-conspirator, Kathy. She's sitting right there. And this spurred from Chanel's Unity group in creating this gallery. So kudos to you to wanting to make this happen. And so at least if I've got 2 minutes left, I want to show you the history of how this gallery came together. All right, we're going to do it right now. Nope, not that video. Nope, not that video. This one. I'm gonna force you to watch this video. Why won't it play? How do I play it? Got it.
I think art is a universal language, regardless of our background.
Art makes you feel, and art also kind of ties in with the medical humanities of the work we do. And, we learn and become better physicians by opening ourselves up to more perspectives, to more cultures, broader ways of thinking about things.
When I would walk down the Department of Neurology hall, you would see pictures on both sides, and the pictures were of neurology residents who are graduating. And it's doctors in white coats basically staring at you as you're walking down the hall. For me, I could connect with the pictures because my picture was also up there with my graduating class. But for anybody else who's walking down that hall, I feel like you don't really feel included. One of the keys with this Unity Gallery is we want to develop trust, and that's trust within our neurology department, but also trust within our local community as well.
Coming into this Unity Gallery space, a lot of people think that my work is, mostly public and pretty much it's on a wall or on a ground or somewhere on someone's t-shirt. But earlier on in my career, I spent a great deal of time in gallery work. So it gave me those connections and that connection point where it wasn't anything off of the chain of events and things that I do to actually step in and say, yes, I could work with you on curating this gallery, being its director, and helping fulfill the mission of the Ideas Committee of bringing in that diverse voice into those halls and diverse conversations.
Well, I was with the department for 30 years, and I've been involved with the DEI movement since I retired 5 years ago. So I think they're making a concerted effort to be more inclusive and do more outreach, and the gallery is just one aspect of that.
I think for me, it's really that whole of inclusivity and representation. In our neurology department and across the country in medicine, there is not a lot of diversity. And I think we all want to feel comfortable. We all want to feel represented.
I want people to experience the motto of our university, ever better. I want them to experience the world around us is bigger than our own community. It's bigger than our own personal lives and our own visions that we see. And there's growth, and there's learning, and there's awe in that.
Now, I want to say the gallery movement is growing. We have school visits that want to come through. I've had many people tell me that who are in this facility who said they've gone through a few times, brought in friends, and we continue to reach out. So it's not just about folks in neurology. Working with my partner in crime here, we're making sure that everyone on this campus takes a visit and has time to visit the Unity Gallery. I ask you to go give it a visit, but we're working with all departments, so it doesn't have to be doctors. It's everybody else who might be, you know, cooking food, sweeping the floor. Everybody needs to be connected to something. This is how we keep and now she's pointing at my time. All right, so I'm gonna shut up because I hopefully did it under 10 minutes or at least 11 minutes. Thank you all, have a good day.
Show of hands. How many people went to Africa? Damn. Okay. Well, you about to go to Africa right now.
Within my traditions and most traditions that I've observed throughout the African continent and here in Azania, there is no initiation system, there is no healing system that doesn't invoke sound, whether it's in terms of singing or whether it's using various instruments. So music is actually at the core of healing.
If we use the word ngoma, and certainly, coming from Zimbabwe, ngoma is a song, but sometimes ngoma can be a drum. So ngoma is a sound. So ngoma is also a story. Ngoma is a word. But inherent in that is music.
So what music does, it is to turn knowledge into a non-threatening experience. Music then allows us to dance with knowledge in a way that makes us feel comfortable, that doesn't make us feel threatened, and at the same time brings in an element of inspiration that leads us to a trance for knowledge to be able to be acceptable in our psyche.
The sound, the drums, takes you there. The mind takes you there. Where about? To that element of healing. It's just like when we say a forest bathing, forest healing. Go to the forest, listen to the music of the animals there, music of birds and all this. Even the music which are played by the people. But listen to the words, the message which are coming there. It can heal you.
Humanity can't express on its own, so we depend on a lot of outward things for self-expression, and music is one of them. Music takes us higher, and it takes us to a place of spirituality and ascension and absolute magic and reality at the same time.
What is a song? You can't have a song and not dance. You can't have music and you don't dance. And you can't dance without a song. So music and dance go hand in hand.
Dancing becomes an embodied way of connecting with that which is intangible. Amongst those that are sangomas, the dancing actually becomes an entranced way of allowing the mediumship to take place. And when you're dancing, you're activating so many things.
There are moments when, as you live on this earth, if you don't dance, you lose your essence and the very synergy of what keeps you alive. So music and dance is one thing. So if there's music, there has to be dance. If there's dance, you have to be listening to music.
The one instrument which is primary and central is the drum, especially the bass drum, the bass resonance drum.
As a Venda people and as a people of the North, our biggest instrument is a drum. the heartbeat of who we are. So the drum is the most important because it really speaks to the spirit.
I think the drum is quite universal, when kind of look across the globe, as an indigenous instrument, that is really able to, activate a certain, parts of the brain, just in terms of, and getting you into a particular brain pattern, depending obviously on the rhythm that you're playing.
The drum then transforms energy quicker, transforms frequencies quicker, but you also get mbira. Mbira is played in Zim, I think. But primarily it's the drum.
Some parts of the rites of passage, especially pre-teen to one graduating into being a teen, the importance of spoken words, poetry, it's central to the art form for the men.
I think here, and I think across the African continent, we have praise singers, we have griots, we have those that call in order to tell the history, in order to tell, the cosmology, in order to, to speak into, communities into existence. And I believe that there is an element of that, griotship, or, praise singership that we find, within hip hop.
And it's an innate thing that we are born with, that we can speak and hold attention with the way that we speak. And that gave rise to hip hop.
What made Snoop Dogg nothing but a G thing? It's that bass line, man.
When a king comes into the council, today we even do it with political, leaders. When they come into parliament, the opening of the parliament, in front of them, there is a poet, whether a man or woman. This poet will be singing the glories of the lineage of that president in a hip-hop way.
So what you just saw is a project I've been working on. It's a sample of it that I've been working on over the past few years. It's a documentary called Healing Origins of Indigenous Knowledge in Hip Hop. So when you think about hip hop, first and foremost, let me say this. There's one thing in common that every one of us in this auditorium have, and that is deoxyribonucleic acid. Our ancestors, 99% of our ancestors lives inside of us. We wouldn't be here without them. And a lot of our behaviors comes from our ancestors. And if we understood that, we would get a better understanding and appreciation who came before us. So when I think about hip hop, the DNA of Africa lives in it. There would be no hip hop without African indigenous knowledge systems. And let me demonstrate that with you. So for the sake of the talk of the day or the topic of the day, making psychological safe spaces, let's think about music in generality when it comes to that. Music collectively brings us together in many ways. Nowadays in hip hop concerts, there's so many people there celebrating and singing together. Thinking about hip hop, it became the #1 music genre in the world. Before, when it was considered not a music genre at all. But it is more than that, it has become a culture. So as the video is demonstrated, and when you look at each point that's on this slide, these points exist both in hip hop and in African indigenous knowledge systems. The instrument, for instance, there would be no hip hop without a drum. You heard what the traditional healer said in the video. Our heartbeat is the drum. You can't have music and not dance. You have to dance. And with dance comes rhythm, a cyclic pattern And in hip hop, it's repetitive. If you listen to a beat in hip hop, the beat has repetition. Same thing when it comes to the drums that you hear in Africa. If you listen to the drummer in the background, he had a repetitive pattern happening in the background of the music that was playing. Graffiti. Let's think about graffiti for a second. The sigils in Africa, the cosmogony or the geometric shapes, even on my shirt, to these cowrie shells, to this patterns that you see right here. Very similar to what you see in graffiti nowadays. Right around our culture, right in our backyard. Call and response. What happens at a concert? Anybody heard the recent song of Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us? What he had at the very end of that song. Say O-V, O-V, call and response. That element existed in hip hop, existed in indigenous knowledge systems for thousands of years. Metaphor and correspondence go hand in hand. You're not gonna see a being in Africa with a human body and a dog head or a hawk head with a sun disk over its head with a serpent around the sun disk, walking around. It's a metaphor. And it's natural elements that correspond with what you're seeing in that artistic expression. Creativity explains everything I just shared with you. And intelligence encompasses it all. So again, there would be no hip hop without indigenous knowledge systems. And taking that in all in consideration, I decided as a hip hop artist, being born and raised in hip hop, and someone who has been living this culture throughout my life, I saw absence of it in a field that I now am a part of, which is marriage and family therapy. So me being a student in this very institution, I felt there was an opportunity to merge these elements, indigenous knowledge systems, hip hop, narrative practices, and create a modality that people of African descent can see themselves in the therapy room, which is called booth therapy. And basically it's a framework that includes what I just explained, also narrative elements because of the striking similarities between narrative and African indigenous knowledge systems. I said this is the perfect evidence-based practice that we can fuse and merge and integrate with all these elements and develop something that's gonna be quite effective in a room with people of African descent. So what I do, there's a whole process, by the way, but at the tail end of the process is what I'm gonna explain right now. I sit with the client and it's like an interviewing process. I take their story and I take notes of their story, write it out. Then, with their permission, I make a song out of it. What I end up doing, we go through a process of beat selection. Whatever beat they choose, that's the beat I write to. I write a song, record the song, then I take the lyrics, the recorded song, give it to the client, coach them through the process until they're comfortable enough to record themselves. Once I record them, we have a subsequent session where they listen to the final product and we debrief, process, and see what that experience was for them. Now, with that being said, we don't just go into the booth, like I said, we don't just go into the booth therapy process. We have to have a whole process that happens before that, which includes African indigenous knowledge systems. It includes the narrative practice. It also includes polyvagal techniques, where I make sure that they're stabilized and safe before we even go into this process right here. So yeah, this is something that I'm actually presenting next week at the the International Conference of the Association of Black Psychologists in Phoenix, which is a profound experience for me. I'm a little nervous for it because I never did it before. But this is something that I do plan on doing, and hopefully I'll be able to expand on this and turn it to something much more significant and profound in the future. So that's it. If you have any questions, let us know.
Thank you. Thank you all for those wonderful presentations and the video representations as well. Do we have any questions in the room? If we do, we have two folks that are going to run the microphones around. Just raise your hand. You can go ahead and ask.
Hi, my name is Cache, and I work in the Department of Surgery connected with the TAVA program. And I wanted to ask, what was your childhood like, to all three of you guys?
So what was your childhood like?
Wow, that's a So I was born so again, my name is Imhotep Ptah. I was born and raised in Rochester, and I had a pretty serious childhood. Poverty, violence in the home, violence in the community. Oops, I don't know him. Violence in the community. Walking to school, seeing crack bags on the ground, needles. Yeah, this is the environment I grew up in. It also it influenced a lot of things that I've done throughout the years. So you're talking to somebody that's formerly incarcerated, went to prison, been through quite a bit, survivor of gun violence, so many layers to my childhood. And I wouldn't trade it in because it made me who I am now. It made me very resilient. It made me be able to look at things through a different perspective, and also have a diverse set of eyes when I look at life in general.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. This group here, I think it's wonderful to have some people here, and you're in a group and you're looking for being a doctor and surgeon and stuff. That's fantastic. I always just say, like, I kind of, in a sense, got lucky. I found what my thing was early. And I hope that's in groups like this help you find the thing that's your thing, whatever that is. Like for me, it was music. I was in 4th grade. I saw a trumpet. It looked shiny. It wasn't as big as a tuba. So I figured I'd just play it. And then it turned out to be like, here I am, almost 50 years later, still playing a trumpet, I was focused. I was focused in school. And it's not because I was some great student or anything. It's just because I had something that I really liked. It was something that I really liked. And if there's anything that I would say to you, to anyone here, is find the thing that you really like. That you really like, the thing that you will do just because you want to, not because you're getting paid, not because, when you're tired, you still want to do it. Find that thing and do that, right? And that's pretty much what I did. I mean, I went through stuff at school. I had all kinds of things, and I've seen people that had incredible experiences, and I've had people that had very low experiences or very trying experiences. But having that one thing that you really can focus on and do and express yourself through, that's what helped.
Yeah, that's a good question. Childhood, Rochester, born and raised, single family home, all the kinds of stuff. Always, as Herb was saying, I always wanted to be an artist, but everybody's like, nah, you can't do that. You're gonna make no dang money. Get a job. So, in school, I wasn't a good student. I was thrown out of 2 high schools, had 3 kids by the time I'm 20, on social service, talking about, I want to be an artist. People said, you're crazy. But as these brothers have shown as examples, don't listen to what other people are talking about. And that's what you got to do what you got to do. Because nobody ain't got nothing over you. Nobody's better than you. I don't care what acronyms are in front of the name, after the name. at the end of the day, they all sitting on the toilet. So ain't nobody better. Like you said, we got the same gene in a sense. Well, ain't nobody no better. So stick to what you got to do in life. So I tried to stick to it, and that got me to where I am today. It wasn't easy at all. But yeah, the childhood and exposure, seeing other things is good. So keep it going.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions in the auditorium? Hands high. We have one on the row back here from Ariel.
So how do you create psychologically safe places for yourselves when you're not feeling at your best?
Dang, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. That's a real good question. I think, because I'm always not feeling my best. So that's that's waking up, that's going down, you know? It's like, man, I'm sucking at this thing called life, but you just gotta keep going. Gotta keep going sometimes. I think that's where it is. So it's in the dirt where you begin to grow. You know what I mean? It's not sitting on a clean counter. Sometimes you gotta sit in a pile of shit in order to grow. And I think that's where it is sometimes you gotta just realize that's where you are, and that's not who you are. Where you are is not who you are, and that happens throughout your life, throughout the course of a day. Through a couple of hours, you could experience many different feelings, and so I think that's where it is, finding that place, that safe space within myself to say, this is okay. I don't have to be this, I don't have to be that. I can be me right now.
So what I do, I have some rituals that I practice. I actually, I call it putting on my spiritual armor. I wake up in the morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock. I take a shower. I put on some white linen, and I meditate. I pour libation once I'm done meditating. Once I'm finished done meditating and pouring libation, I go to the gym, I exercise, I come home, I take a bath now, deliberately. There's certain components that I put in that bath too. I have a whole ingredient mixture that I create. And by the time I'm done, I'm going to work, and I'm pretty relaxed. I'm pretty calm, you know, and I make this a practice. And by the way, the meditation I do is very, very intentional. I'm not just sitting there breathing in the breathing exercise. There's a very intentional process that I follow in my meditation. And that's what keeps me grounded. That's what keeps me psychologically safe, you know. In other words, I ritualize my psychological safe space.
I am such a musical person. Music is such a part of my life, and it is such a, you know, it can change your mood, it can change everything. So my Spotify playlists are crazy. I have so many different Spotify great playlists. And it's just, I go to those really in a time of need, you know, in the middle of the day. I mean, I have my thing that I do in the morning, but sometimes that doesn't always work. You need something in the moment that's gonna help me. And so like if I need a pick-me-up, if I need to come down, if I need some focus, if I need, there's so much, music is so powerful in that way to change that. And then that will allow me to create that space for whatever I'm needed. And the space changes daily, hourly, what you need. And I'll be going through a Spotify list. Nope, not that song, not that song, not that song, not that song. Ah, that's the one right there. You know, and then finding what I need to get me where I want to be.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one last question online. I know we're about to end, and maybe you can each take 20 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds to answer. This person is asking, do you have any thoughts on how best to create spaces in our daily work for administrative supports personnel to tap into the artistic expressive forms within the workplace that might not be the things that we typically think of? And it's okay if you don't have an answer.
I mean, to me, the music thing is a big point. Personally, like sometimes people, like the music that's being played in a workspace can really change the way an office runs. I know I used to work in the office of a orchestra, and they had certain music playing, and it just was driving me crazy. I couldn't work in that space. But for other people, it was very useful. I worked at another place where everyone had headphones on in the place, and it was interesting because although there wasn't a lot of communication, everyone was kind of in their own safe spot, safe place. So that's something to think about too, as far as music is concerned.
I would say that we need more than the EAP. I think that there should be some therapists on staff that are contracted outside that someone can see, especially in the spaces because there's a lot of things that's happening in the workspace. And EAP is not it's not sustainable when it comes to the things that's happening in the space. I think we need a whole program that's specifically tuned in for employees, therapy-wise.
I don't have an answer for that. I haven't had a real job in 20 years. I don't know. Sorry.
All right. Well, on that note, join me in giving a round of applause to our panel. We thank you for your time and your attendance here and online. And if you have any questions, feel free to walk on up. If there are any questions we didn't answer online, we will answer and send you a response. Thank you.